What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Just want to introduce myself. If you are new to this channel, my name is Eric Velasquez, and I'm interviewing the candidates for the 2021 City of San Antonio elections that are coming up here in May. May is the election date. Early voting starts April 19th, ends April 27th. So, yeah, it's coming up really close. The candidates are getting really excited for this to happen. Let's keep that momentum going that we had in November of last year and have it for this election. So that's the whole point of this. Let's get some more people involved and engaged in our city elections. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our next guest. What's going on, Jacob? What's going on?
How are you doing? I'm doing
Good, good. I want to go ahead and introduce yourselves. That's how we can get started.
All right. So my name is Jakub Kosiba. I'm a candidate for the Northside ISD Board of Trustees, District 5. I'm a 5-year school teacher, entrepreneur, co-founder of A&Z Consulting. So graduated from Texas A&M here in San Antonio, and I'm here to reopen our schools is the big thing and improve our educational system because it drastically needs a large amount of change.
All right. And I'm gonna ask the question that everybody is asking already to begin with. What does the Board of Trustees do? What does that mean?
So the Board of Trustees are responsible for the school's budget and how it's handled. They work with, at least at Northside, it's the largest ISD in San Antonio, and it works with a budget that's over $1 billion. It's very, very large, and it's very, very critical that we use that money efficiently because in the United States, we have the highest per capita, over 12,000 per student. It's a lot of money that we're using per student, so we need to wisely use that money in our school district, not more spending, but efficient spending.
How much did you say?
Over $1 billion.
Whoa. All right. Wow. That's almost as much as our city budget. I think it's what, 3 billion.
Right.
So all right. So what are some things that you would like to see done that are being cost efficient?
So something I would like to have done is, first of all, renegotiate the whole healthcare system and benefits package for Northside teachers. The budget for that is less than 0.02% right now. Yeah, people might be very alarmed. I've done my research. I've looked at the budget very carefully. I look at numbers all day. I'm a math teacher as well. We use less than 0.2% of the budget for TRS, and we don't have Social Security for our teachers. That's something I want to introduce on my website on votejakubkosiba.com. I have a comprehensive, very detailed plan how we can renegotiate this deal to include Social Security and also improve the active care plan that we are giving out for teachers. Another thing, this was about 3 years ago. It takes $9 million to use in our budget to create a floor for a high school cafeteria. $9 million. Trust me, I can see a mansion that's worth $3.2 million out in the Dominions, and a floor costs $9 million for a contractor. We need to really take a look at what we're spending money on, and it needs to be transparent because I don't know how much that truly is going to the contractor and what is not going to them.
Wow, that's some heavy stuff, man. So do you think that do we know if it's just being done to a contractor at the lowest bidding, or is it, similar to, I'm not going to say similar, because there's been this question with Harlandale ISD, right?
Okay.
I don't know if you had seen that or not, where they had given a contract to a company and they were favoring this company.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up getting out of hand, and then they got a lawsuit and all this. So Harlandale's having to spend so much money to pay off this contract.
Right.
And they were in hot water. So, I mean, how do we know the same thing's not happening with NISD?
So from my research for Northside, I haven't seen any lawsuits regarding any contractors as of now, but I have found some interesting details where the school owed or the district in general owed about $21 million. They were short $21 million behind something. There was not a lot of detail. I can even share the link later on my website. It's on my Facebook page as well. And we can't be irresponsible not knowing what we're using our money and end up being $21 million short, because that's your taxpayer money. 49% of your 40 to 49% of your property tax goes to your ISD. It's more than this city, which is only about 20%. Almost half is going to your local school district. So we need to be very efficient in how we spend this money and also have transparency. What I want to do is create a website. I mean, there is a website for Northside ISD, but I want to create a file that shows every transaction live that's being taken place, which is currently not the case in any school district from what I understand. It shows they have to show certain guidelines of what they spent it on, but I want exact details what they're spending that money on for full transparency.
Man, I think this is a reason why I really want to do this, is because I think we really need to focus on our school districts. We need to focus on our local elections for city, but our school districts, from my point of view, they always get overlooked. Why do you think that is?
So this is my second go around for running for the Board of Trustees. I ran for the ACCD 3 years back. I quit thinking like, oh, I'm not going to ever run again. I moved a different career path, went to a different school district. I'm happy where I'm at now. I was good financially, working 2 excellent jobs now. That's the thing with teacher pay. Most teachers work a second job because it's just not enough. And I just feel they're overlooked because everyone's paying attention to city council. They're always paying attention to the mayoral elections or the presidential, Congress, Senate, but they don't understand that a lot of the policies that are in place affect your children at a very young age. Why are we not paying attention to that? It's huge what's going on. And if you don't pay attention to that, and then 5 years down the road, you're pissed off about something, you're like, you should have paid attention to it 5 years before it happened. And about less than 1% of the people will actually vote all the way down to the ballot. About 20%, 30% are going to vote in the mayoral election. My election is going to probably be, give or take, 600 votes that I could possibly win or lose the election. That's how embarrassing, honestly, it is, that 600 votes to decide who runs your entire educational system. You need to really think about that and do your research on who is running and what they're doing.
Yeah. And I will be honest with you, I have been like that, where I didn't look at the school board. And that's why I really want to focus on, we need to change our mindset and start realizing why we need to vote for, or why we need to understand these positions and the people running for it. So what are some of the things, or why are you running for the Board of Education? And if you are elected, what are your priorities? I know you told me before, but go and tell everybody else.
So I'm running for the Northside ISD Board of Trustees. This is it's not particularly the State Board of Education. It's here locally in San Antonio specifically. And there's 5 major things I want to do. Number 1 is renegotiate the healthcare system benefits package for NISD teachers and staff, including staff, because not everyone who works in a school district gets healthcare benefits. We should give that to everyone. 95% of the school districts in the state of Texas saw their health insurance costs rise by 7%. TRS Active Care 2 plan premiums have increased by 12%. We need a better deal for our teachers and staff, because if you try to add a family member or spouse on that package, it can cost you up to $1,000 extra, which is unaffordable. It's really honestly unaffordable, and most teachers are going to a different person to sign up their family members on a healthcare plan, because it's not sustainable, it's not affordable, and we need to fix that, because only the district itself, and I think it's mostly in Texas, they put in per employee about $150 to $225 per person. Let's increase that to $1,200 at least, so you can at least add your spouse and your family onto it. And I've done the numbers already on that. $1,200 per the 12,900 staff members. This is just staff, and not everyone's eligible for health care. It would take up a little bit over than 1% of the entire budget. That's it. It's not a lot
Wow.
to ask, and it's something we can do. That's number one. Number two, the emergency rooms have seen a 24% increase in mental health visits from children from 5 to 11 last year, including this year. Increase among older teens is increased by 31%. Having kids wear masks 8 to 10 hours a day with very minimal social distancing or social interactions, the increased homework remotely has been a major key factor as well. Let's relieve these restrictions and allow more students safely to come back face to face, because right now they're at a limit. Let's continue to allow these schools to reopen and allow more kids go face to face. The third big thing I want to do is encourage decision making that includes taxpayers and teachers. Too many times the voices of staff, teachers, and students have not been heard in the community. And I want to make sure that your voice matters, because 50% of your property tax goes to our school district. So you should have a voice and what happens around the district. Number four, increase workforce development, vocational classes, in addition to developing intellectual minds, increasing the number of workforce development courses and vocational classes, because vocational classes where it's at. Not all students are going to go to college. That's just how it's going to be. Not all of them are.
Yeah.
I applaud the ones that are going to go and do that. But if we increase the number of vocational classes, at least they'll have a field of area they would like to go into and work right after high school. They can start working immediately. And lastly, having a person, an advisor on every single high school campus that helps students dictate what area they would like to go in the workforce. Not for college. We have one for college, but I want one for the workforce development, so they can decide on helping these kids get into a job after they get out of high school.
True. And I'm just remembering back way back when I went to high school, you always have like the army and military recruiters, but
Right.
never any positions, like any jobs like what you're saying is, it was either college or military.
Yeah.
You pick.
There's military, there's college. No one can even say that tell me if there's a job fair somewhere. I would gladly go visit that and promote that in all school districts, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely, if anybody has seen something like that, for sure here, I mean, that really needs to be done here. Man, there's a lot to unpack there, to be honest with you. Again, anybody watching, if you want to ask a question on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, please put a comment on the comments. I'll read it off to you. If you're doing on Instagram, sorry on Instagram if it's a little, I'm recording my computer screen with my phone, so please, I'm sorry if it's bad quality, but I'm doing what I can with it. But if you have a question, please jump in and ask a question. I see Curtis, I see your question. I'll pop it up here in a second. If you do have a question, if you do have a question, I will. You can jump into the actual live stream itself and ask a question directly. I really would like for people to start doing this more, because it makes sure it clears out any question from your comment, and when we're relaying that question to the candidate. So that's here. What are your views on sex education and healthy relationship education?
So determine specifically what you mean by sex education. Go into more detail regarding that, because there's several areas that people are confused by on sex education. I firmly don't really believe it should even really be in schools unless you're promoting a healthy, what is the best approach to meeting someone, having that relationships with other people. I'm all for that, meaning where we're safely teaching students, this is the way we converse with people, basically being well-minded citizens but maturely. Never at a young age should we introduce that into schools. That should not even be nowhere near that. At least at the high school level, maybe. But I'm very, very iffy even on sex education being even promoted in our schools. I don't like it. It's a very big issue that we have in our schools. And what was the second part of that question? Is it pop up again?
Healthy relationship education. And again, Curtis, if you want to jump in, please do. Anybody who does have a question, please jump in and ask a question directly just by clicking the link below.
Right. So the healthy relationship aspect of it, we should be teaching our students, honestly, how to be well-minded citizens is what I would honestly say about that. How to converse with people, how we meet with people. What are the expectations of how we should be listening, talking to people, conversing with people, being open-minded with others who may not agree with the same thing. That's something I do promote. But the whole sex education thing, I'm very iffy on that, even being pushed into a school district. I never liked it. I know maybe when I was in high school, if for listeners out there, some of them, they handed out condoms or something. Why are we doing that? That's bad. That's a bad approach. Number one, to even be doing that. That's something I totally disagree on. That we should even be doing. I know some schools actually do that. Maybe at the higher level education, I know they do that, and that's something that I'm not even okay with.
Okay. Curtis, can you hear us?
Yes. Are you open to discussing what your issues are about sex education?
So, what issue do you, from your understanding of sex education? There's two areas that people usually go about it. Where they're promoting sex education regarding, are they talking about whether it's birth control or teaching how everything works in, like, with a man and a woman, or however they may be teaching, or the healthy aspect of it. So, what area are you trying to exactly pinpoint?
Both. Because unfortunately, sex is a reality. It happens no matter if you teach it or not. So
Right.
I think the school, which does know that it's happening, needs to actually get in front of it and tell the kids that, hey, okay, sex is amazing. Sex can be the most wonderful thing in the world. Here's why you probably shouldn't do it now. But if you do it, which they will, here's
Right.
how you can do it safely. Here's how you can make sure that you consent to everything that happens to you. This is how you basically you control your relationship. And when I say teaching sex education, I do mean to say, how sex works, but also why sex works and
Right.
why what times you shouldn't, and basically it happens. We all know it happens.
Right.
It doesn't not happen to anybody. And
Right.
by ignoring it while they're going through school, while they're actually being formed into the people they're going to become, that's when you need to just tell them the reality right then.
Right.
That's what I see. And then I mean, if you see a different way, let me know what's going on.
So I absolutely agree. It is a reality in our, especially in the higher education area. I would do it by parental consent. Number one is what I would do. That's the big important one. We're not going to just force it in our schools without parents being known about it. So something that happened at our school, and I went to Tom C. Clark High School, which is in North Side. So it wasn't too. This was back 15 years ago. So I don't know how common it is now. But what happened was we need to have a waiver signed by the parents that this is okay, that this is going to happen at our campuses. We're going to teach kids about X, Y, and Z about sex education. If we're going to allow that, which I fully agree with your point that you were saying, that it's a reality, yes or no. And if you do it, this is the safer way to go about trying to do it. We should be promoting that at the higher level, of course, in high school at least, and the upper grade levels, safely, but also by parental consent as well, is what I would do.
Oh, sorry. Hold on, Curtis. I'll put you on mute just because it was a little. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand not wanting to piss off parents, but again, the sex that the kids are going to be having doesn't affect the parents unless something bad happens.
Right.
So, I mean, I totally understand wanting to be transparent, but at some point you need to say, like, this is what really does happen. And quick background, I'm in the sexual assault prevention movement and family violence prevention. So I know very much that this is all happening, and if you try to hide it, it just keeps getting worse. So it needs to be out there. People need to understand what consent actually means, you know, that implied consent isn't actually consent anymore. You know?
And Curtis, is there possibly a way that we can do, you know, some obvious, you know, areas that we can talk to the kids without having to have like a waiver, you know, something that doesn't go too far deep to where it would start raising a lot of eyebrows. You know what I mean? Is there something like that, Jacob? Jacob and
Well,
Curtis?
well, that would be my healthy relationship side. That's where I'm talking about not only, you know, letting people know what gaslighting actually is, letting people know what ghosting is, letting people know that if somebody cheats on you, you're not valuable to them. So, you know, don't bother, you know, because it's these things that we could be teaching, because that is reality. If you, I mean, yeah. And as far, unfortunately, I didn't go to school since I've been out of Northside since '96. I went to John Jay. We had the highest teenage pregnancy rating in the district back when I was there. And you know, like I said, a lot of people stay in abusive relationships because they'll change, but you know, they need to be actually told in school, not just hearing it in movies, that, you know, they aren't going to change. The only time it's okay for somebody to hit you is never. So, you know, and people don't understand. They're like, well, you know, he does love me. He told me he loved me. But school should be actually working with the kids to see the flags. And that's what I mean by healthy relationship. But again, you have to tie in sex, because sex is healthy as well. And, you know, it's, like I said, it's going to happen. You tell them not to. That never works. They're teenage pregnancy daily. So, you know, it's going to happen. And some parents aren't going to like it. And there's people that are religious that, you know, their religion doesn't believe in it. But unfortunately, that doesn't keep the kids from getting pregnant. It doesn't keep them from getting raped. It doesn't stop them. So the parents give them their values, but the school needs to actually prepare them for reality. That's what I think. I'm sorry. I am a father.
No, you're
I'm
fine.
not a teacher, but
no, it's a very big topic that a lot of parents that have had concerns like that. Majority of the parents that I've talked to that even remotely want that, do want consent. It's a very big issue of being promoted in our schools. Healthy relationships, by the way, what you mentioned is an absolute 100% totally guarantee, and agree with that we need to teach students how you go about healthy relationships. Maybe not as much as the sex aspect of it. Yes, that it's going to happen, but that's also a parental thing and something that the district as a whole would need to discuss as well. I do know that schools do allow speakers to come on campus to talk about certain issues that are happening around the district, and that's something that has been going on in the district right now. We can include more of that to help them, but definitely healthy relationships is where it starts at, and just having students know how to go about what are the signs that are good, what are the signs that are bad, and just trying to improve them in their daily life and to just model them as citizens and just try to do our best we can on that aspect.
Yeah, and I think you kind of bring a point of, you know, well, there's a lot of parents that don't want more encroachment from the actual the school, even more so from the city itself. So I mean, it probably would be best to get that consent, you know, from the parents, because I know I would want
Yeah.
something. Me as a soon to be, parent of the kids that are going to go to school soon, I would like to know everything that's going to happen and have a say in that. But I know how I teach my kids too, so I mean, it's just one of those things. But yeah, I also agree with you, Curtis, with what you're saying, and trying to get that aspect. Do you have any other questions?
No,
for Jake?
I appreciate your time, and
Of course.
good luck to you, and
Thank you.
I hope to talk to you again someday.
Absolutely. I don't know if you have my information, but you can look up my name. I'm on Facebook or whatever platform, and I'll message you immediately, and we can sit down. We can talk about any issues that you have.
Yeah, and I could send you his link if you want, because Curtis is actually a candidate for, what was it, District 4?
District 4, yes.
District 4, yeah. So, but yeah, I'll link y'all to it.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, Curtis, thank you. All right. Yeah, that's a very touchy topic.
It is.
Yeah.
Because majority of the people I talk to are going to want consent, period. The parents are going to want consent. I know some percent are not going to mind. I know it's a reality, but the majority are going to want consent. And I'm going to follow what my voters want and what our parents want. And parents are going to want consent. That's just, they want that. It's about transparency too.
Right.
If I don't have any kids, but if I had a kid and they were teaching them a specific thing that was very iffy on, I would be upset. Like, why are you teaching my kid this without me even knowing? It goes to that level as well. Like, I would want to know at least what's being introduced before it happens, and I find out after it happens. So it's absolutely about parental consent.
Right. And I have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they're going to be going to school soon, and I'm gonna have to start learning about all this stuff that's going on. So, oh, sorry. Curtis says, I'd love a work program that supports volunteering with nonprofits. I never took gym in high school and never successfully stayed in the work program. So, we don't have anything like that, do we? That supports nonprofits for volunteering, or
not from what I've heard. Not much at Northside. Maybe charter schools do that a lot more. I know charter schools do that a lot more. Traditional ISD schools, I haven't heard a whole lot about it, at least at their sports programs. I know they're always raising money, is from what I've heard, but not really a lot of volunteer work. And then I saw there was another comment below about I would love to volunteer. Was that from Curtis as well?
Yeah, I'll get to that one. So okay. Good job, Jacob. How can people volunteer?
So people can volunteer. Just message me on Facebook. Honestly, my number is 210-421-6059. You can text me. I'm block walking almost every other day, if not every day, after my job during the day. I have spring break, so I've been doing a lot this week. So after this show, I'm gonna go out and block walk again for about 4 to 5 hours. So that's something I'm very big on. Just talking to the voters really has been what has been key for me. And most of the voters have been very, very open to what I want to do on the school board.
Definitely. Charles says, what protocols would you support in your position to reopening the schools?
So right now, the capacity rate in schools, it's different. Some of them are 25, some of them are a little bit higher. I want to open, honestly, and that's just how I feel. I want to reopen our schools 100% full capacity. The reason why, 70% of the Northside ISD students, this is just in Northside, not including all the other districts as well, 70% of them were failing. 70. Just think about that, how big of that number is. 70% of the kids that are home, with 75% of the students being at home, are failing. We need to reopen our schools safely, meaning hand sanitizers at the front door, scanning machines at the front door, making sure that the temperatures are good at all times. No one goes in and out without being scanned to make sure that everyone is good. And that's how we can reduce the rate. And that's something that all schools should be doing. Number one, we can socially distance our kids. The younger levels, I know that the order says that masks are not mandated to students that are 10 years or younger, I believe. And that's, I mean, younger kids are less likely to be in contact with COVID rather than older people, and that's just how it is. At the older level, we can still do the mask mandate as well. But if we don't do the mask mandate as well, what schools can do, something that some schools have been doing, is a hybrid day, meaning half the campus, let's say we have a high school with 3,000 students, half of them come on campus on Monday. They take their courses in school on campus. Then they go home. On Tuesday, they don't have school. The next half of the kids come on Tuesday. So it's similar to college. What they do a hybrid course where you don't have college traditionally every school day. You have a class Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I think that works best with our high school. For the younger kids, however, from eighth grade and lower, I think it should be required that these students need to be coming on campus every day. High schoolers have more of a capability of doing the work on their own, being at home a little bit more. But the younger kids, it's where it's really been, the achievement gap has been widespread, is the younger grade levels. A 7-year-old is not always capable of doing everything on their own. That's just, there's no way that can happen. And I know a lot of parents, I've talked to many parents who their kids are in middle school and elementary, and they want their kids back on campus immediately with safety protocols, but they just desperately want them back in school because they're seeing the rate of it's just too much of a coursework. They're not doing very well. There's no social interaction. That's the big thing. If a kid doesn't have social interaction, or even plain adults like myself and everybody else out there, we get depressed. Our mental illness rates are going up. We go insane. We just can't be cooped up in an area all day, every day for months on end. That's just not how we are as humans. We don't live that way. So we need to open up everything safely, having hand sanitizers, making sure we can also have the office space. Let's say there's kids that are getting hurt, create a separate area of an office space for kids to go in there, so we're not having a huge amount of kids in one area, so we can safely use the area, especially if there's only half the campus is on school. There's plenty of room for everyone to be on that campus, because if you've seen these campuses, these schools are huge. There's plenty of space for everybody. I've not seen one tiny school, unless it's very local, tiny Christian private schools or charter schools, that can be very tiny, but there's always room for all of our students, at least half the campus, to be there. And we can utilize the other rooms for different things. They don't just have to be classrooms. If we're only using half the classrooms, right, let's use them for other things and other resources like intervention courses, other things. So we can even split the course, making sure that we have also reduced class size. That's one also thing we can make it safely if we reopen. Reduce the class size. Instead of 25 kids being inside of a room, we can do it to where it's 12 and 13. Makes it easier on the teacher, and it makes it easier on a student, where there'll be a lot of feedback back and forth. The teacher can help those 13 students and then rotate, and then the next 12 or 13 come in. Much easier to manage classroom management that way. So that's a huge plus for the teacher, because classroom management would be very improved that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. Here we go. What are some of the things that you've done as far as like community activity organizations or anything that you've been involved in within the school district?
So I've worked in a charter system for the last 4 years now. I worked in Northside ISD. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations I've worked at, traditionally not related to the school, but around the community. Because I was involved politically with other things, congressional campaigns and all that other stuff before I did this race. And I worked on a lot of nonprofits, like pro-life nonprofit stuff, Meals on Wheels, San Antonio Food Bank. I did this years back. I would going out, even helping recently going out to help with trash pickup or just cleaning up our city because I'm seeing so much garbage everywhere and it doesn't look nice. And I'm going around cleaning that up a couple years back. And so I've just been involved with things around the community and also other organizations that come on campus as well, like military recruits that come on campus, the SAPD that also come on campus as well. I want to work with our law enforcement to make sure that they're treated respectfully and they can give out their information for anyone who wants to be, hopefully, because I know they come to recruit for high school students as well. And and they also crime prevention. That's a big one that they come and speak to students about. So we want to make sure that we can grab a whole lot of nonprofits and our first responders on campuses to educate our students on why is it important what they do and how they make our communities safe.
Definitely. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm going through my list. Okay, so question: what for everybody watching? What's the difference between the board of trustees and a school board? Is there any difference between that?
So the school board is the school board of trustees. Same thing. Actually, yeah. There's 7 individual elected positions, and the superintendent that are part of the body. So it's a body of 8, you could say. The 7 original board members do vote, but they kind of call it a member of 8. So it's the superintendent along with the 7 board of trustees, which is part of the school board.
Okay. And so what are some of the things that being a board of trustee would do specifically for the school district?
So for the school district, they do make a lot of the planning for the school year is something they do in the summertime. Late in the year, summertime, they do a lot of planning, about 25 hours a week, I heard, for about a month or two, just planning for the next school year, what the curriculum is going to look like, what the policies in each school are going to be in place, the budgeted of how they're going to distribute and what's going to be managed with the budget. Fixing all the hearing out all the contractors as well. If they're building anything new, that's where they do all their planning with the contractors as well. So there's a lot of that happens inside of these plannings that happen, and that's the big one. Most of it is spent on plannings in the summertime, and that's something I'm really excited to be a part of if I get elected May 1st.
Yeah, definitely. Shoot, I was gonna say something and I forgot what I was gonna say when you spoke on about some of the curriculum. So the curriculum that's set by the board of trustees or by T.
So TEA is the people that they're the ones who dictate what the TEKs are, that the teachers are supposed to teach, and every school is required by state law to teach these TEKs in our campuses. What the board of trustees can do is modify it a little bit. They can see the content that is going to be taught, and they can allow certain things to be inputted or not inputted. But traditionally, whatever the TEKs are, those have to be there. Those cannot change. Those are state mandated by TEA, so those cannot change unless TEA somehow changes whatever they're doing. Then that would change down here locally, but at least the TEKs have to be done. I know a lot of charter schools, for example, Idea Public Schools, for example, this is not very relevant. I mean, it's a little relevant, but it's not. They do something called a NAFTA program. It's very different. It's basically a script that they read off of. It's not really connected to the TEKs. It's very, very different. So it just depends on what district you're in, but a body school board does have flexibility of changing some things in their curriculum. And during that process as well, during the summertime, it may be even in the beginning. I mean, it has to be the summertime. They review the curriculum, and then that's when they vote on it. They review it. They look at it in detail. They say, we want this, we don't want this. So they just they vote on what they want and they don't want, which I've never been a school board member, so I don't know exactly how to
Yeah.
answer that. But when I did, I'll be very interested to see what is actually the process of doing that, because I know a lot of parents and teachers would like a lot of changes in our curriculum.
Right. And do you know if the teachers can teach anything outside of the TEKS after they've maybe have taught it? Like if there's any extra time, can they teach other things?
So from when I used to work, when I did my student teaching at Northeast ISD, it was very different. It was I had the TEKS. I'm gonna teach this one specific let's say I'm doing ratios, and then dividing and multiplying fractions is what I did as well. I would have to teach that concept. I could teach it I had notes, and I had a program that I looked off of, and this is how I taught it. But I didn't have a lot of flexibility how to go about it. Yes, I could modify it. Oh, let's do a game out of it, or I'm going to teach it by writing some problems down, or we're going to do them together. But it was whatever the teak was, I had to stay on track on it and make sure I covered that before I did anything else. I was at that type of teacher where, oh, I'm going to teach something else entirely after my time was over. Normally, I never had the extra time anyway.
Yeah.
As a teacher, I never really did. But when I worked at Idea Public Schools, I worked there for 2 years as a math and reading interventionist. I created my own curriculum. That's very different than what traditional ISDs do. I created my lesson. I mean, all schools create their own lesson plans, but I created my own lesson plans. But I was able to tweak it to the way I wanted to do it, and that's some flexibility I have. And maybe we can add that type of thinking, which a lot of charter schools do, including many of them that I've seen do this, where you're allowed to tweak it and the teacher's allowed to honestly teach the way they want to. Get that type of thinking and that type of flexibility to teachers in the ISD system, so they can have fun with how they're teaching their concepts, but still going based on the guidelines. It's still based on the guidelines, but at least they're doing it to the way where they're traditionally their hands are not tied behind their back. And that's how a lot of teachers feel like that the school system is now, is where we're forced to kind of teach it this way or teach it to the test. And that's something we kind of need to get away from. We're still teaching the TEKS, but let's not focus on teaching to the STAR test traditionally. Well, let's get away from that a little bit, and let's revamp it a little bit.
So what can we do as people, as voters, as you as an educator? What can we do to change that? Who do we have to go to? Is it T, or is it, where do we have to reach that problem at?
So that problem is everywhere, honestly. It starts locally. If parents, teachers, or whoever, whether you agree with the curriculum or not, and I have a lot of issues with it myself, you need to just be vocal, step up, email, call your local district offices, go to Austin, go to TEA. I've been there before to say a couple words years back in 2016 regarding some of the policies that they put in place. But it's about being honestly an activist and a very proud person of the educational system. I see a lot of parents doing it. They have these massive rallies for, like, if you're for school choice, which I am, I'm big on school choice. They have these massive rallies for school choice. It just takes people to go there and email and call, keep emailing and calling, and eventually things get done. If people just sit around and don't do anything, nothing's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to work that way. You have to keep calling. For example, if you're not happy with your elected official for city council or mayor, sitting around and typing stuff on Facebook all day, it's not going to work. Yes, you can express your frustration, which is excellent, but the politician's not going to care. Yeah, they might see it. They're not going to respond to it. You got to call their offices. You got to keep emailing them. You got to keep telling them, like, hey, you work for us. It's not the other way around where government works for you. Government's supposed to work for our citizens, for us who elected them in the first place. And that's how it goes. So if you're not happy with something, what's going on, email, and if I get elected and there's something you feel that I'm not doing well in or I can improve on, email me and I will take your feedback immediately. That's one guarantee now I can tell you that probably many other candidates don't necessarily say. And I'm doing this for an unpaid position. This is not me getting paid for this political position. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this to improve the lives of our teachers and parents and to get our achievement gaps smaller because we've wasted a year, not to necessarily wasted a year, but 70% of them have failed at a remote. We can't have another year go to waste with what we have.
And okay, so just because I'm kind of interested to know what's in it for all of y'all to do this position, if it's unpaid and not a lot of people focus on it. So
right.
What? Yeah, I mean, what is it? What's in it for y'all? I guess in a sense.
Right. So for me, for example, I'm going to still be doing my daytime job Monday through Friday when I'm elected in office. I'm going to be able to do everything else after work or during the summer when all the planning goes on. What's in it for me? Honestly, just improving the educational system is in it for me. I am a person who wants to see both sides, whether you're Republican or Democrat, independent, in between, whatever party you're in. Let's come together with ideas and let's fix our educational system. For me, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm not doing this for my own political benefit to run for a higher office in the future. I don't want to. I don't want to deal with that stuff. I want to make sure that I want to improve our educational system, be there, make some good changes, and then just get away from it. I don't want to be there for 30 years and just keep it for the private dinners and fancy parties. I'm not there for that. I'm there to get work done and then get out. And that's what I want to do.
Gotcha. So is there like an issue? And again, I'm just asking because this is I'm curious to know these things.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh man, sorry, hold on. I didn't realize I didn't have the microphone on to the. Well, I mean, people can still hear on Instagram, but hold on, sorry. Sorry guys, I didn't realize. But anyway, is there a discrepancy with how these school board positions are done? I mean, should they be paid? Should they do something different with how these things are set up for these school board trustees? Or why are people not getting paid for it? Let me just ask those questions right now.
So some school boards in some states and some other counties are paid, actually. So this is one of the few areas, not all of them are. Some of them are paid, some of them are not. I'm not entirely sure why they're not. For me, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm going to promote and try to get school board members paid when I get elected in office, because if I were to do that, that would contradict everything I'm doing. If I'm going to come here and get elected in office and say, you know what, I'm going to fight for me to get paid as an elected official. No, that would be hypocritical of me to even say that. But other counties, actually in other states, their school board members are paid. Not everywhere. I don't know the exact percent, but if you're an elected, there are like other minor elected positions like precinct chairs to county chair, the Democratic Republican Party, and those positions are not paid either, which is very interesting. So it's not every political position is paid.
Right.
Being an elected official is voluntary work. Let's not forget what the purpose of an elected official was in the first place, and to have term limits. That's what it was originally supposed to be. Over the last 200 years, as our country has evolved into what it is today, they've added massive salaries on positions. And what do we've had? Career politicians on these elected positions there forever, 20, 30 years, and are using it as a career. Being an elected official wasn't supposed to be a career path for anybody. That was not the traditional way our founding fathers Not a lot of people may agree with our traditional beliefs, but at least that aspect they got it right. That aspect they did get it right, where we can all agree elected officials weren't supposed to be there as career politicians. And a lot of people are pissed off at not just elected officials, but at Washington
Yeah.
because they used it as a career gateway to never work a different job, and they just keep getting elected and use that to just benefit their own self-interest. And that's something I will not do.
Right. And I think that's the reason why I asked that question, is because I'm wondering, is this the same as some of the other positions in political office, to where, people might do it, for a small amount of money, but yet end up getting more things to benefit them outside of the office itself
Right.
from other interests? And that's what I'm kind of really pushing towards. Like,
So there was in Houston ISD. I'm not entirely sure which. It might have been Houston ISD. This was back in 2017 when I was running for the ACCD. The superintendent I was running against had to quit her job as a superintendent because they found out that she had conflict of interest with a contractor energy company that she used to work for. That's something that can't happen in elected officials, where you have some private entity that used to work for doing benefits. Oh, let's cut a deal so we can get less money, or cut a deal out to do something for our district. That cannot happen, where there cannot be any conflict of interest. And there's a lot of politicians that have a lot of conflict of interest locally, all the way to the top of Washington. We've seen it everywhere. And that's something that elected officials sadly have been doing, because guess how their salary is paid? By taxpayer funds. That's how it's paid for.
Yeah.
So they're able to create policies and loopholes where they have the jobs that they used to work for, or they currently still work. When they report their finances, there's a lot of loopholes, honestly, that they can get extra money in. And the superintendent I used to run against 3 years ago, that happened to her. That was a conflict in interest, and the board asked her to resign from the district, and she did. And that's something that I can share that with people. There was also, we heard about Uresti a couple years back with the conflict of interest, that he had money laundering going on, and that's here in San Antonio. We had that happen with Uresti down here, and the feds came up to his home and got everything that he had, and that's something that's just happening. There are a lot of politicians that have a lot of other dealings that are going on while they're in office, and they use that office to benefit themselves,
Right.
including their partners. And that's just a reality. And we're seeing that every couple of years. I see another story about a different politician, like, oh, I thought they were a good, nice guy. They're all nice guys. And then I figure out that they did something else. I'm like, wow, I could not believe that person did that.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that. We're seeing
And I think the most recent one was Harlandale ISD, where
Right.
they had the contract, and they were basically favoring this company,
Right.
and for years, and they weren't rebidding and allowing them to just come on without having to rebid. And that was a huge loss for Harlandale ISD. But
Right.
until we actually start looking at specifically also our school districts and where that money is going, like you said, a lot of our property tax money is
Right.
going to the school districts. And also with the South Side, they are getting taxed a lot,
Right.
and also getting taxed out of their homes. So the fact that we also need to make sure we're looking at these school board positions and what they're doing. So what advice do you give to the public to say, what are some of the things you should be looking at in your own specific school board, even if you're not an NISD? What are some things you should look for to make sure people are held accountable?
Yeah. So when you go whatever district you're in, go to their main website. They have exactly when the school board monthly meetings are with the school board, where you can, I don't know if they're in person or virtual. I know they're one of the two options. Some of them have already been slowly going back face to face. Others are virtually. And take a look at how they vote. Pay attention to that, because that's something I really pay attention to. And this is a question I've asked a couple people. Has there ever been less than a 7-0 vote? That's a question I ask. Every single thing that's on the agenda, it's always past 7-0, whether you like it, whether you not. Why is that? Why is it always like a 7-0 vote and there's no opposition to anything that's being done?
Yeah.
So go to these school board meetings, look at the agenda carefully. And something I would also ask your administration, and just email them to be just to find out, what about our input? What if we don't? What if we see something that we don't like? Are we heard? Listen to that. If those concerns should be addressed, that's what they're there for. And if they're not on the agenda, keep calling them to get a meeting with one of them, or somehow just get your issues and voice heard. And that's what I want to do at Northside when I'm elected. And we're going to involve parents and teachers in decision making. I want them included in the decision-making process. That's something that hasn't been done a lot in many school boards, and I feel that is very essential for a very healthy, lively school district. If parents are happy and teachers are happy and they have a voice to concern and they're being at least heard, they're more open to what the board is going to dictate. If they're behind closed doors all the time, I don't know particularly what districts do that. I mean, I know a lot of them do, where your voice is not even heard at all. Then you're not going to be happy. So go to these board meetings, look at their agenda. And also something you can go do is just look at wherever your student goes to, whichever school, take a look at the campus. Is it completely in ruins? Does it have no supplies? Is it does it have a lot of technology support in it? That's a budget issue. Not meaning they don't have the money. How is it being handled? How is it effectively being handled? We can sit here and all day and they say, oh, we don't have money for education. If education was an economy, it'd be the top 5 economic powerhouse in the world. Top 5. That's how much money it brings in, because we bring in half of it through our property tax. People live here. I don't know how many people now are in this country, over 300 million people in this country, probably way more than that now, way more than that. So there's always going to be some sort of funding for education. It's never going to be where there's not going to be any funding, because there's always going to be people living here in this country. There's over 300 million people, so there's always funding for it. But how it's being effectively spent, if they're just wasting, again, $12,000 per student in this country, that's one of the highest, if not the highest, of any country. $12,000 per kid, that's a lot of money that we're being spent per kid. We need to see how that money is being efficiently used inside the classroom. And it doesn't always have to be on the outside of the classroom. How's it being spent on the inside of the classroom? Are teachers required to buy their own material? If they are, that needs to change. And that's something I do want to change. 55% of school teachers are already buying their own supplies. Why can't the district help them? Let's help our teachers, and let's increase teacher pay. That's a big one I want to do, because recently first-year teachers got a pay reduction about 2%. Why? During COVID, they need to get that increase. Teachers need to be paid more. Right now in this state alone, teachers are paid $7,000 less than any other majority of the states out there as an average. $7,000 less. Let's increase our teacher pay. And that's something I also want to do when I'm elected and on the board, and help our teachers.
Definitely. John Mel says, has someone volunteer? I think you did say that. I think it was your, let me see.
I think I received your text message, John, at 210-421-6059. Please text me again. I know I got a couple of text messages here over the course of this hour, which I appreciate, because very soon I'm going to go block walk. And if you want to meet up, we can meet up. I'm available almost all day tomorrow. I do work in the morning, but after a certain time, I will be available. and we can go out this weekend. I'll be available every single day next week after 4 o'clock. So just text me and we'll find a time to meet up. So that's really the big one I need. I'm not asking for donations and money. If you want to, that's excellent. I'm not really looking for that. I'm really looking forward to block walking, meeting with parents, meeting with our people, and telling them how we can help our school district. What is your plan to transfer these are being spent in okay. So the transparent plan to let taxpayers know how I believe monies will be spent on the board meets and vote on a budget. Okay, so what I want to do is have a representative from the teacher side in the board meetings that are happening, not in public. I would like that, and maybe one parent as well. So 2 representatives, 1 parent, 1 teacher, voted on by the parents in that district, and 1 voted by the parents or teachers in the district. 1 representative. They are included in the inside behind closed door board meetings. 2 people. I'm not asking them to vote in these board meetings, but I want them to be represented inside so they can see what the budget is being used for, because they have a right to know. It's our money. Why does it have to be behind closed doors where we don't know what's going on? Let's be very transparent about it. So I want 1 teacher and 1 parent representative inside closed door board meetings once a month that happens weekly or whenever they occur, and have them gather information from the parents and teachers so they can voice their concerns during these board meetings behind closed doors, so they can express their concerns to the superintendent and all 7 board members. That's the transparency I want. I'm not asking them to vote, because I know particularly some board members may like, oh, you can't do that. They're not supposed to vote. I'm not asking them to vote. They're not an elected official, but at least they're going to be, again, involved in the decision-making process where they can see what the money's being spent. And if they see an area like, oh, why are we spending $9 million here? They can at least voice their concern about it. Mm-hmm. And I will happily listen to those parents that like, hey, you know what? The board needs to listen to what we're seeing. Maybe we did something wrong. It's not always where no elected official is perfect. They're not.
Right.
They need that accountability to be told, like, hey, are you sure about this? This is something that is a little iffy. Let's look into that a little bit. That's absolutely what we should have. We need that open communication with the board, teachers, and parents, so they can see what that money is effectively being spent. And if it is voted on the website, full transparent transaction live when it happens, and the details behind that transaction, who the contractor is, how much they're getting paid, what the tile. I want to know how many tiles were used and how much tile was used. It doesn't cost that much to show that on a live feed. That's the type of transparency I want, and it would be good for the community so they can, it's accurate. And that's what we need. It's not asking a lot. It's just full transparency.
Right. And John Mill says, you mentioned that the board spent $9 million on a floor plan. Do you believe there are fundamental discrepancy with the way the board awards contracts?
That's the big question. That's a question that I've been trying to answer, because when you go to monthly board meetings, I don't know, because I don't know what other dealings that contractor has with Northside or any school campus, like the one in Hardendale, for example. We don't know that detail, what happened with the agreement plan during those contractors and why it spent so much. I can send you a budget that was released in 2017 with other very questionable, highly questionable things that I felt were way too expensive for a contractor. Like for example, how many people are getting paid for this contractor? If it's 2 people working on something and it's about $5 million, well, then that's some wealthy contractors that are getting paid $5 million for a 2-man work job for something so minor. So it may not sound like a lot, but it's super important that we need that transparency of what they're being asked to do, how long is the contracting job, what they're getting paid for to do it specifically, and if there's any other dealings or reward system for that contractor? That's the big question. I don't know, because we are not allowed to see that behind the door deal that they do with the contract. Nobody does. If somebody does know about it, I would love to see it, but you only find out about it in the aftermath when the news reports about it. For example, for the one in Harndale, then we know what happened, and even the full details weren't released. We don't necessarily know exactly what happened, but that's something I want to improve on, is to have that transparency, that live feed, exactly what's being spent on, and that would definitely help with the disparity that is happening with these contractors.
Definitely. Yeah, the whole Harlandale thing, basically they've had a contract with this company and did not ever they never did a rebidding to have other
Right.
companies come in for a competition. They just basically gave these people a contract
Right.
without any say so. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a mess. But all right, well, any last things that you want to say before we wrap up? I appreciate you being here for this long. But
No,
hopefully
this is great. Yeah.
anything
So,
last things that you want to say before we wrap up that we didn't get to cover?
yeah. So I'm the only educator that's running on the board. My three opponents, two of them are former administrators. One of them works with the city management down and works with the city. So I'm the only educator even running on the board. Why is it that we don't have any educators on the board? We need them. We don't need more administration to tell us what we need to do and how it's going to be handled. And they're going to vote along. If these administrators, when they're elected, are going to vote along with all the other board members and what the superintendent wants. That's going to happen. If you have an educator in office, they will listen to the voice and concerns of the parents and the teachers, and let's make it happen on May 1st. This is the first time thing we can finally do, is get an educator finally on this board that will represent you and your voice on the board. And another thing about me, I came to this country from Europe. I'm bilingual. Ja jestem drugi rzecz też. So I'm not an American. I'm bilingual. I have dual citizenship. I love this country. Let's get to work. Help me out here. I'm not asking for donations, but please text me again at 210-421-6059. Let's get to work. Let's help our community. Let's get let's get our education back on track. And I just need all the help necessary to win this election. I just need volunteers, because I don't have a lot of money to spend to pay people. I don't have a paid staff. I have just volunteers that have been helping me here and there, and that's all I'm asking for. Let's get the type of thinking. I'm an entrepreneur. I work with a company that promotes local businesses, going from restaurants all the way to real estate. I work with business deals for the last couple years of my life. I know how to make a good plan. On my website at votejakubkosiba.com, I have a long, comprehensive plan of how we can help our teachers and reopen our schools very safely. It's on there. So let's get that type of thinking onto the board, and let's work together as a community. It doesn't matter what you're Republican or Democrat or independent. It does not matter. We are helping our students, our community, and we need to get that type of thinking in office, and we need to work together, because you will be along the ride to help our campaign do so much better and to help our school district be better than it can ever be. Northside's a great place. It's a great place, but it can be 10 times better. And that's what I want to do.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, I appreciate you coming on and answering these questions, because I think this has really brought a whole new, forefront to just really why we should be looking at these school board positions. And I appreciate you coming on. Really do. And thank you everybody for watching. And thank you for just continuing to want to learn more about your local elections. And just for the viewers itself, if you would like to donate to this to this live stream, please do. My Cash App's on the bottom. I'm doing this free. I'm not getting paid for this, so donations are welcome. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Jacob. Good luck, and everybody have an awesome day.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eric.